What is it that you have that so many people who are unbelievably brilliant at engineering or are incredibly good managers or bold business people or what have you, what is it that you have, do you think, that enables you to make this stuff happen?
Well, I first of all, I certainly don't think I can, do anything or do most things that people think are impossible. Because I think a lot of what people think is impossible is actually impossible. But occasionally it's not. I guess it's. I don't think I've said this before. I think it's helpful to have kind of a physics framework for looking at things. Do a first principles analysis, look for negative feedback, really believe in what you're doing, but not just from a blind faith standpoint. Like to have really thought about it and say, okay, this is true. I'm convinced it's true, and I've tried every angle to figure out if it's untrue, and sort negative feedback to figure out maybe if I'm wrong. But then after all that, it still seems like this is the right way to go. Then that I think gives one a fundamental conviction and an ability to convey that conviction to others, and to convince them to join. And that's what a company is. It's a group of people who come together to create a product of some kind. And so if you can convey that and answer the concerns that people have, convince them that this is something that needs to be done, it's important, and here is a path to do it, even if that path has a lot of danger associated with it and risk, and maybe it won't succeed. But people can understand, okay, this is why it's important, and even if the odds are that it won't succeed, it's worth trying to do it. Then I think you can create a great company.
The only thing you have to believe in right now is that humans are capable of learning. That humans, for whatever reason, nature has chosen to not endow us with a whole bunch of pre-programmed things. So for instance, a baby horse, a foal, I believe is how you say that. When they're born, they can already walk. Literally, boom, they come out and they're walking and all is well, because that's all hardwired into them. But a horse is a horse is a horse, and they're gonna stay a horse, and that's that. And you're never gonna find a horse reading Chaucer, just not gonna happen. So that's, all those decisions are pre-wired. Humans, on the other hand, come out, they cannot take care of themselves. They're a lump of flesh. They basically know how to suckle, and that's sort of the extent of it. But now humans have the ability to go in all these crazy different directions, and they can learn to become an astrophysicist. They can learn to become a carpenter, a doctor, an astronaut. Like, the number of directions that humans can go in is crazy. The amount of what was once known as junk DNA, we now know as epigenetic signaling. The way that we can respond in all these different directions to our environment, to the things that we choose to focus our energies on is truly unique to humans, is just absolutely astonishing. So understanding that that's baked into the human animal is the ability to learn and go in any direction. So once you realize that humans are adaptation machines, that we can learn anything, now it's like, okay, whatever you want to do, you can do it as long as you're willing to pay that price. I'm not saying that it's not going to be hard. It is going to be very, very hard. I'm just saying that it is doable and that you will receive a return on investment in your energies. And that's what people need to know and believe to the core of their being, that my time in this direction will be rewarded. Now, here's where people f themselves up. There is this retarded debate about whether or not it is, hey, am I pre-programmed? I'm good at math, and so that's it, and I should go do things that are math, or I'm good at verbal, and I should go do things that are verbal. I'm naturally gifted as an athlete, so I should go be an athlete. Look, I'm not saying people don't get early wins. People get early wins. And if you happen to love the thing that you're getting early wins, and that's awesome, man, and you will find it just a little bit easier. You've got a headwind or a tailwind, I guess, a tailwind. You have a tailwind. And so that, yeah, love that. But if the thing that gives you the most energy in life is something that you have no natural inclinations for, then go learn that. When I say that I have zero natural ability as an entrepreneur, I mean zero. I had to learn everything from not being lazy to problem solving to overcoming my paralyzing fear to look at world like a puzzle, dealing with anxiety. Literally, it was comical as I was going down my journey in the beginning as an entrepreneur to figure this shit out. It's ridiculous. And then I meet people who are like ripping flowers out of people's front yards and selling them back to them. Like when I say that was not me, I had a paper route and I was so chicken to go up to people's doors that I actually only got half the money that I could have gotten for the same paper route, the same amount of effort. But because I was so afraid to go knock on people's doors and ask to collect the money that was due, that for like 2 years, I did a paper route for half the money. Okay, that's how spastic of an entrepreneur I was when I started. So you can learn this stuff. Now, my goals demanded that I learn entrepreneurship, so I learned it. So that's what I want people to understand. What is your goal? Work backwards from there. If it lines up with what you're naturally good at, that's amazing and congratulations. But there are gonna be times where it doesn't line up and you've just gotta either change your goal or recognize that I'm gonna have to figure these things out.
Find a situation where you can be in the room with masters of a craft. And that could just be deal making. It could be joining a small company, say fewer than 50 people, where you simply get to observe one of the principles, negotiating, in an industry that you don't even care anything about, right? It could be waste management and you want to go into high tech, but if you sit in a room with someone who's an absolute pro at crafting deals, negotiating, getting past no, those skills and maybe those relationships start to snowball, all right? And this is what Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, would call systems thinking. So instead of being wedded to the outcome of a given job, you are accumulating skills and relationships that transcend that job, okay? And if you choose your environments well, because as I've said before, and as people like Drew, the CEO of Dropbox, who's a friend, have said, you're the average of the 5 people you associate with most, right? So if you take just a few years, have the patience, a few years to really develop core competencies that allow you to craft your own reality and life, negotiation, deal making, getting past no, etc., learning how to pitch, how to get someone's attention in 30 seconds so that you can then create the desire and ultimately ask for some type of action. Once you develop those, then you can really just create the map for the next decade and the next several decades. So that would be it. It would be learn before you earn, and it's never too late to do that. So I don't care if you're coming out of college, coming out of high school, 30, 40, whatever it is. Systems thinking, focus on the skills and relationships first, and then you can just create a blank check for how much money you want to make.
How many times have you had somebody say to you, hey, have you got a minute, Bob? Have you got a minute? They don't want a minute. I want you to think about that. I read a poem one time. It said, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. It was forced upon me. I can't refuse it. I didn't seek it and I didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. It's only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Well, at any rate, I thought I'm going to put this on a video and I'm just going to share it with everybody. Just this one little part out of the seminar I'm making. I want you to look at this sand timer and I want you to think about your life. The sand in the top of the glass represents the future. The sand in the bottom of the glass represents the past. Now, do you know, we know what's in the past and yet we can't do anything about it. Do you know what the trick is? You don't know how much sand's in the top of the glass. You may think you have a lot, you might only have a little. Then again, you may think you have a little and you might have a lot. When I was a little boy, I was raised by my grandmother. And I don't know, when I was a little gaffer, she was probably 60, but as long as I can remember, Grandma would say, I'll soon be gone, dear, I'll soon be gone. Well, you know, we loved her. She was really an angel of God, but we thought she was never going to go. She lived to be 94 for 30-some years. I'll soon be gone. She didn't think she had much time left. She had 34 years left. Now, about the same time, I had a buddy of mine, Bob Yates. He was just 16. And bang, he ran into the abutment of a bridge and his life was snuffed out. If you had asked him a half hour before how much sand he had left, he would have said at least a half a century. He didn't have a half an hour. See, the trick is we don't know how much sand we have left. The future, we don't know. The past, it's gone. Now, the only thing you can deal with is what's right here, right now. And if you look, the sand is always moving. Now, think of this. You see, I was working on that, and then I was working on a graph I've got here on my computer, and I'm thinking of the time somebody said, hey, have you got a minute? Well, they don't really want a minute. Do you know if you're earning $50,000 a year, a minute's 42 cents? A half hour is $12.50. If we take that ahead a bit, if you're earning $80,000 a year, a minute's 67 cents. Half hour is $20. If you're earning $150,000 a year, got a minute? It costs you $1.25 a minute. A half hour is $37.50. So do you see, if somebody said, you want to stop for a cup of coffee? Well, if you're earning $250,000 a year, a minute is $2.08. Half hour is $62.50. And then, of course, you got the coffee to pay for on top of that. So you see, the point is this. This is all we've got right here, right now. We don't know how much we have left in the future, but we do know what we've got now. And I have found the people that win are the people who make up their mind. They're not going to waste the minutes. They're going to be productive. They're going to make it happen every minute.
The only thing that I see that is distinctly different about me is I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill, right? I will run.
You would not be outworked.
I will not be outworked.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
You know, you might have more talent than me. You might be smarter than me. You might be sexier than me. You might be all of those things. You got it on me in 9 categories. But if we get on the treadmill together, right, there's 2 things. You're getting off first, or I'm going to die. It's really that simple, right? So let's go back to the question about what if people block me out. It's going to be 2 options. I'm going to get back in, or I'm going to be dead. Right? It's like, you're not going to outwork me. It's such a simple, basic concept. It's the guy who is willing to hustle the most is going to be the guy that just gets that loose ball. You know, he got 2. He hustled, he grabbed that one. That was going to be out of bounds, but he saved it back in. It's like the commodity that I see the majority of people who aren't getting the places they want or aren't achieving the things that they want in this business is strictly based on hustle. It's strictly based on being outworked. It's strictly based on missing crucial opportunities. I say all the time, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
I'm the kind of person that believes you should always make decisions with your heart and soul. You can use your brain for math. You can use your brain to look at the fine print in a contract. But when it comes to the actual feel of the decision, you always want to go inward and check it against your heart and soul. How do you do that? Here's the simple test. Does the decision that you're about to make expand you, expand your future, or expand the possibilities of your life? If the answer is yes, then the decision is yes, no matter how terrifying it is. If you conversely look at the choice that you have to make, and the decision will shrink you, will silence you, will inhibit you in some way, then the answer is no. No matter how easy the decision is, no matter how safe the decision is, the answer is no. Now, one of the things I want to point out that when you start to use this, does it expand or does it shrink me? Does it open possibilities or does it keep things closed? Does it raise my voice or does it silence me, right? Is that there's always a short-term and a long-term impact to the decision. The short-term impact to making an expansive decision a decision that's based in your heart and your soul, sometimes it's terrifying, because sometimes it means moving, or it means changing a job, or changing a relationship, or having a difficult conversation, or starting something new. And those sorts of things are always uncomfortable. So brace for impact, put the force fields up, but make the decision anyway. Because the long-term impact of making a decision from your heart and soul, that is where the best life comes from. Because you're living for what's true for you, not what's safe in the moment.
I'm not going to stare at it. You stare at your past and you'll end up staying there. It's okay to look back and admire it, but you carry on. I'm not in the business of staring back at it. You know what I mean? And getting lost back there. People say a loss can make or break a fighter, but trust me, a win can also make or break a fighter, because they get comfortable with a win. People can get comfortable with a win, and slack off then. Slack off on the training. Slack off on the diet. They've won one. They're winners now. That's not me. You know, you sleep on a win and you'll wake up with a loss. So I just carry on, keep doing what I'm doing. And that's why this turnaround is so good for me. Vegas, straight away. The Fighting Irish head to the fighting capital. It's perfect. Continue on this path, the freight train straight to the top.
You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. There's no doubt about it. And I know that's probably not a traditional message for a graduation ceremony, but hey, I'm telling you, embrace it, because it's inevitable. And I should know. In the acting business, you fail all the time. Early on in my career, I auditioned for a part in a Broadway musical. Perfect role for me, I thought, except for the fact that I can't sing. So I'm in the wings, I'm about to go on stage, but the guy in front of me, he's singing like Pavarotti. He's just, and he's just going on and on and on, and I'm just shrinking. I'm getting smaller and smaller. So they say, "Oh, thank you very much, and you'll be hearing from us." So I come out with my little music, and it was Just My Imagination by the Temptations. That's what I came up with. So I hand it to the accompanist, and she looks at it and looks at me and looks out at the director and was like, all right. So I start, you know, I'm gonna sing. I'm like, it's just my imagination once again, and they're coming away with me. And they're not saying anything, so I'm thinking I'm getting better. So I just start getting into it. It was just my imagination. Running. They say, oh yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Washington. Thank you. So I assumed I didn't get the job. But the next part of the audition, he called me back. The next part of the audition is the acting part of the audition. So I'm like, hey, okay, maybe I can't sing, but I know I can act. So they pair me with this guy, and again, I didn't know about musical theater. And musical theater is big, so they can reach everyone all the way in the back of the stadium. And I'm more from a realistic, naturalistic kind of acting where you actually talk to the person next to you. So I don't know what my line was. My line was, well, hand me the cup. And his line was, well, I will hand you the cup, my dear. The cup will be there to be handed to you. I said, oh, okay. Well, should I give you the cup back? Oh, yes, you should give it back to me, because you know that is my cup and it should be given back to me. I didn't get the job. But here's the thing. I didn't quit. I didn't fall back. I walked out of there to prepare for the next audition, and the next audition, and the next audition. I prayed. I prayed, and I prayed. But I continued to fail, and fail, and fail. But it didn't matter, because you know what? There's an old saying, you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. So you will catch a break, and I did catch a break. Last year, I did a play called Fences on Broadway. Someone talked about it. Won the Tony Award. And I didn't have to sing, by the way. But here's the kicker. It was at the Court Theater. It was at the same theater that I failed that first audition 30 years prior. The point is, and I'll pick up the pace, the point is every graduate here today has the training and the talent to succeed. But do you have the guts to fail?
Most people do a lot of talking and most people don't put in the effort. There's nothing you can't accomplish in life with the right amount of work. The challenge is, are you willing to do the work? And the reality is most people aren't, but that's the opportunity, right? It's like people at school. Most people are lazy, right? They barely get through it, and so that creates opportunity.
The only way to deal with fear that I found in my life is a couple ways. One of those ways is to turn it on itself and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? If I'm afraid of that, I gotta be more afraid of what I'm gonna miss out on, missing out on my mission, missing out on who I'm supposed to be, In other words, if you're not gonna get rid of fear, then use fear. Use fear or it uses you, it's that simple. So you gotta say, okay, what's the price if I just stay doing this? What's the price? I need to really get scared if I learn all this and I don't follow through. That's something to be scared about. And then that fear will get you over your fear. It'll push you through. Turn fear on itself. Second way you can do it is use what you've probably heard me say, because I've used it since I was 17, is my little rocking chair test, right? I'm gonna sit myself in my rocking chair, and I'm 85 years old, and looking back on my life, and I say, I didn't do this, or I did.
When I was about 15 years old, my first real job, and on the second day, I was asked to scrape the gum off between the Mexican tiles on the floor, and I said to the woman who owned the store, it was called Magoo's Ice Cream Parlor, you didn't hire me to scrape gum, you hired me to scoop ice cream. And there's this girl in the shoe store across the way that's looking at me, I don't want her to see me scraping the gum. And she said, what are you talking about? I own this store, I'll do anything I want with you, get down on your knees and scrape that gum. And I said, I'm not doing it. She said, you're fired. Last job I ever had. I owe that woman everything. I don't like to work for people. Many of you in here, I hope, inherit that. There's nothing wrong with it, but if you want to control your own destiny, you work for yourself. That's how it works. I'm trying to inspire those of you who are on the tipping point. Take the chance, you're young. Go for it. There's nothing better than being able to wake up in the morning 10 years or 20 years from now and do whatever you like. It's about freedom. That's what matters. I'm not saying being an employee is bad, but believe me, being an entrepreneur is better. I'm a little biased.
When I was 8 years old, I was delivering papers door to door, knocking on doors, expanding the paper route. When I was 12 years old, I was shoveling driveways after snowstorms in New York. Yep. Make $20 a driveway after a big snowstorm. I hit it big for the first time when I was 16, selling ices on the beach, blanket to blanket to blanket. Wow. And that's how it started. And after that, I was hiring people to come work. We had 12-year-old kids selling puka shell necklaces for me. My mother was buttering bagels in the morning, and that was really the way I always was moving towards life.
We have so many rules in life about everything. I say break the rules, not the law, but break the rules. My wife has a t-shirt. My wife has a t-shirt that says, well-behaved women rarely make history. Well, I don't want to burst her bubble, but the same is true with men. It is impossible to be a maverick or a true original if you're too well-behaved and don't want to break the rules. You have to think outside the box. That's what I believe. After all, what is the point of being on this earth if all you want to do is be liked by everyone and avoid trouble? The only way that I ever got any place was by breaking some of the rules. After all, I remember that after I was finished with my bodybuilding career, I wanted to get into acting, and I wanted to be a star in films. You can imagine what the agent said when I went to meet all those agents. Everyone had the same line that it can't be done. The rules are different here. He says, look at your body. You have this huge, monstrous body, overly developed, that doesn't fit into the movies. You don't understand. This was 20 years ago, the Hercules movies. Now there's the little guys that are in, Dustin Hoffman, Woody Allen, Jack Nicholson, before he gained weight, of course, that is. But anyway, those are the guys that were in. And the agent also complained about my accent. He says, no one ever became a star with an accent like that, especially not with a German accent. And yes, I can imagine with your name, Arnold Schwarzenschnitzel or whatever the name is, on a billboard. Yeah, that's going to draw a lot of tickets and sell a lot of tickets. You're right. So this is the kind of negative attitude they had, but I didn't listen to those rules. Even though they were very nice and they said, look, we can get you some bit parts. We can get you to be, playing a wrestler or a bouncer. Oh, maybe with your German accent, we can get you to be a Nazi officer in Hogan's Heroes or something like that. But, I didn't listen to all this. These were their rules, not my rules. I was convinced I could do it, that if I worked as hard as I did in bodybuilding, 5 hours a day, and I started getting to work, I started taking acting classes, took English classes, took speech classes, dialogue classes, accent removal classes I even took. I remember running around, a fine wine grows on a vine. You see, because Germans had difficulties with the F and the W and the V. So fine wine grows on a vine. I know what some of you now say is, I hope that Arnold got his money back. But let me tell you something. I had a good time doing those things and it really helped me. And finally, I broke through. And I started getting the first parts in TV, Streets of San Francisco. Lucille Ball hired me. I made Pumping Iron, Stay Hungry. And then I got the big break in Conan the Barbarian. And there the director said, if we wouldn't have Schwarzenegger, we would have to build one. Now think about that. And then when I did Terminator, I'll be back. Became one of the most famous lines in movie history, all because of my crazy accent. Now think about it. The things that the agent said would be totally a detriment and would be impossible for me to get a job, all of a sudden became an asset for me. All of those things, my accent, my body and everything. So it just shows you never listen that you can't do something. And you have to work your way up, of course, run for something else first. I mean, it was the same when I ran for governor. The same lines that you have to work your way up, it can't be done. And then, of course, I ran for governor, and the rest, of course, is history. They said you have to start with a small job as mayor, and then as assemblyman, and then as lieutenant governor, and then as governor. And they said, that's the way it works in a political career. I said, I'm not interested in a political career. I want to be a public servant. I want to fix California's problems and bring people together and bring the parties together. So, like I said, I decided to run. I didn't pay attention to the rules, and I made it, and the rest is history.
So a friend of mine and I, we went for a run in Central Park. The Roadrunners organization, on the weekends, they host races. And it's very common at the end of the race, they'll have a sponsor who will give away something, apples or bagels or something. And on this particular day, when we got to the end of the run, there were some free bagels. And they had picnic tables set up, and on one side was a group of volunteers. On the table were boxes of bagels, and on the other side was a long line of runners waiting to get their free bagel. So I said to my friend, let's get a bagel. And he looked at me and said, the line's too long. And I said, free bagel. And he said, I don't want to wait in line. And I was like, free bagel. And he says, nah, it's too long. And that's when I realized that there's two ways to see the world. Some people see the thing that they want, and some people see the thing that prevents them from getting the thing that they want. I could only see the bagels. He could only see the line. And so I walked up to the line. I leaned in between two people, put my hand in the box, and pulled out 2 bagels. And no one got mad at me. Because the rule is, you can go after whatever you want. You just cannot deny anyone else to go after whatever they want. Now, I had to sacrifice choice. I didn't get to choose which bagel I got. I got whatever I pulled out, but I didn't have to wait in line. So the point is you don't have to wait in line. You don't have to do it the way everybody else has done it. You can do it your way. You can break the rules. You just can't get in the way of somebody else getting what they want.
Nothing works the first time. When you try something new, it probably won't work. When you try something new several times, it probably won't work. And the turning point in my life came when I would hear good ideas, and I was so eager to be successful in selling, I would run out and try the ideas and they wouldn't work. I'd try a way of getting an appointment or answering an objection or closing a sale, it wouldn't work. And my natural response, and I think just to be disappointed. And then I realized nothing works, at least the first few times. So I decided I would try a new idea 5 or 10 times before I passed judgment on it. I would not just try it once and quit like most people do, and that changed my whole life. It was a turning point in my life because I realized from then on, if you've got a good idea and you've got a good goal and you want to double your income and improve the quality of your life and you have to try new things in order to get new results, it's not going to work the first time. So say, well, that didn't work, try something else and try something else and try something else. Now, if you try, only 2 things can happen. What are they? Succeed or fail. If you succeed, you do more of it. If you fail, you learn from it, get smarter, and try it again. So you cannot lose by taking action. You can only lose